people from these different disciplines to look at the cultural and neuroscientific bases of creativity and imagination. We had a major launch event last spring that many of the Clarke people came to, and that the Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor of Research kicked off. And then just recently, we have a new president of the UC system, Janet Napolitano, who we think because she was successful in her previous job as Homeland Security, she has a chance of wrestling the University of California into doing something coherently. And the chancellors put forward the Clarke Center as one of the featured, the 2 or 3 featured projects coming out of UCSD right now. We also took Clarke's own way of thinking of a time frame that he proposed to think about the future of a 33-year increment. When he and Kubrick created 2001 in 1968, they cast their vision 33 years into the future. We brought together a group of people around all these different disciplines for them to each propose what is their discipline like in 33 years. And then after they all listened to each other, ask them to come back and say, well, now how have you changed your mind now that you've seen what other people are thinking that their future holds for them? Then we went a bit further from 33 years and went 100 years into the future. Held a symposium called Starship Century, thinking about a 100-year time frame to build a starship, and brought together a diverse group of people from building off our core science fiction authors, but also people from NASA, people from the commercial space industry, people from science, Freeman Dyson, Paul Davies, et cetera. To look at what would it actually mean, why would we want to build a starship? What might it mean to get there? What are the kind of cascading effects of things that need to be put into place to make that happen? Neil Stephenson, Freeman Dyson, Paul Davies, David Brin, Larry Niven, Joe Haldeman, a number of very interesting people. We also continue to draw upon the inspiration from Sir Arthur C. Clarke. We held an exhibition of artifacts that came from Clarke's life at our Dr. Seuss library. We have a Dr. Seuss library and a Clarke Center. So I think we clearly are at the cusp of human imagination here. So these ways in which so a big part of it is the research plan, but also the public discourse around the intersection of topics that we think are particularly key to this. So the previous showing about neuroscience and art. This was a recent event that we had which looked at issues on planetary defense. And just in case that doesn't work out, we also had the Kepler mission to discover 100 new planets that we might be able to escape to. So putting these in conversation with each other. And a big part of this, of what we're interested in, is everyone knows about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We're very interested in STEAM. So putting the arts into that is really the key ingredient that catalyzes those things. So we just did an event with the Museum of Mathematics, which is a new National Museum of Mathematics in New York City. And we're developing a program with them to look at these kind of questions about how math arises out of a relationship that we have to the physical world, but it requires this kind of imaginative spark to turn it into the powerful abstract concepts that mathematics is based on. Upcoming a program on cinema and the brain, where we look at the neuroscientific basis of cinema and the ways in which now we're able to start to study the effects of cinema. And a program that we're doing here next spring that I hope you all are able to come to, that we're working with the Smithsonian, with Air and Space Museum, the Lemelson Center for Industry and Innovation, and the Smithsonian Magazine. Visions of Tomorrow, Invention. They're in a relationship between science fiction, sparking the imaginations of scientists and inventors. Then there's a number of ongoing projects. I'm just tip of the iceberg here. We're developing, for instance, a networked virtual world with the Rady School of Business, where we look at, and we're working with schools from around the world. And one of the key things that we're trying to do is develop brainstorming and decision-making features that the virtual world actually helps to enable, such that everybody now is, all these businesses, we're all very globally distributed. How do we have more effective ways that we can use that global platform, not just to make it nearly as good as being together, but actually that is a preferred and desired way for us to interact with each other. So this is the first year that we've been in action, and we've gotten to this point with the help of a lot of people, a lot of aspects of the university. We also have a new founding partner in Viasat, so I'm very grateful for that. We have a number of people who really made a significant commitment to help us get off the ground, and they're in our Clarke Center Founders Orbit, and there's room for a couple more in that Founders Orbit. I'm happy to talk to you all about it, but it's been a labor of passion for everybody involved in this, and every time I need to just go and draw a little bit of passion out, I'm fortunate that I can draw upon the words of Sir Arthur himself that are endlessly inspirational to us all. So visit our website at imagination.ucsd.edu, and hope to see you at some events, both there as well as here. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have a moment here where we do a little musical chairs, I think. You all recognize this, of course, which was the beginning of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And following this, Tedson Myers, our chairman, will give you a short update on the foundation, and then we will move on to giving our awards out.
That's the first time I've ever been introduced by Strauss, but what the heck. Ladies and gentlemen, we're presenting an update for our Arthur C. Clarke Foundation during this particular evening. Couldn't be more appropriate. Why? Because that's what our board of directors has been up to throughout the afternoon. Look back for a moment. Our program of education has been with us since the early days, the mid-80s. The event document in your hand this evening lays out much of that, a key element of our work. Missing, however, is an addition that we undertook overall responsibility for just 1 year ago. It's a UK-based gathering of contestants whose work and ideas in space-related fields warrants recognition by awards called, wouldn't you know it, the Arthurs. We're doing it in cooperation with the UK Space Agency. Our panel judges are entries from the United Kingdom, and another panel, all UK-based Clarke Foundation board members, judges the entries from international sources. Rapidly, the Arthurs have attracted a sizable following from industry, academia, and the publishing world. we are very pleased to announce that one of our own founders and our vice chair, Dr. Joseph Pelton, was this year's winner of the International Arthurs. Stand up. The Arthur C. Clarke Awards program that we celebrate this evening started in the late 90s. In that period, too, we were thinking seriously about a museum to be located in a Washington area university honoring Arthur Clarke. But that was laid aside early in this century, when we all recognized the remarkable breadth and productivity of Arthur's imagination, and that it beckoned further study. An early start stalled, but a nationwide competition through the Journal for Higher Education brought us to the doorstep of the University of California, San Diego. You heard about that this evening, and can you imagine? The agreement to undertake that project was signed in this building in April of 2012. That's just 18 months ago. And look what Sheldon Brown and his comrades have accomplished in that short time. It's quite remarkable. We had some wonderful presentations, but UCSD, with its excellent Department of Cognitive Science and at least a platoon, if not a company, of science fiction authors who are graduates, they did something remarkable at university. First, they presented us with an extremely thoughtful proposal. And then, would you believe they had the temerity to live up to every word of it? That's a nice surprise to happen in our world. So that's off and running, as you see. Whereupon our board decided it's now time to recognize that any organization worth its salt, while strongly supporting its current accomplishments, must have its eye on the future. Under Joe Pelton's leadership, our work this afternoon focused on where we're going next. How far down the road are we looking? And that will be the subject of several months more work, but stay tuned. I can honestly tell you, though, it was really very satisfying to learn that when Janet Napolitano took over, among the first things she was briefed on was the Arthur C. Clarke Center for Human Imagination at UC San Diego. It made a lot of us very proud. Now, the only other insight I'd like to share with you is the remarkable way Arthur Clarke could get to you. Working with him in DC and in New York and in Colombo, he had a way of focusing your attention on the thoughts he had. He shared, by the way, our planning for the Clarke Center in San Diego. He was thrilled about it. We'd exchange calls, and of course out there in Colombo, hours were spent imagining what would happen. We have with us tonight a wonderful guest, Nancy Conrad, wife of the late Pete Conrad, an astronaut, as you know, who was the third man to walk on the moon. She herself is deeply engaged in education for young people. She is going to dial a phone number, which should give you, as a result, some sense of how Arthur can get to you.